Okay. So I am Mandy Feely Swain, and I am the host of Origination Boost. And today I have some dear friends of mine that are out in Georgia, Patty Hale and Gabby. And they brought a friend that they've recently had the opportunity to work with on a home loan. And so I'll let them introduce our featured guest today.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on. I want to introduce a wonderful customer. We have loved working with Brad. I think it's probably been a year, Gabrielle, that we've been working with him. Yeah. And his name is Brad Turner, and we are super excited to have him on and to share his story. We've had quite the challenges, and we've worked through every single hurdle. We're just so happy he's here. And thank you for sharing your time and your story with us, Brad.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity. Your team's amazing there in Brunswick, and I couldn't imagine dealing with any other company that would have gone above and beyond as y'all have. And so me and my wife and family are really appreciative.
Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and I can hear the Southern accent, so I'm fairly certain you're from the South. I mean, I'm just guessing. But tell us about that, and tell us about just you in general.
Yeah, well, I was born in Colquitt County, Georgia, which is Moultrie, Georgia, but I was raised in a town about 45 minutes or so away. It's a larger town called Albany, Georgia. And we say Albany. We don't say Albany. It's Albany. And raised there, but both my parents are from Colquitt County. And my mom had all of her children in Colquitt County, even though that they lived me and my sister, my younger sister, they lived in Albany. And so I have an older brother and a younger sister. And then my wife and I have been married for 19 years. And we have two beautiful children. We have a 13-year-old son and an 11-year-old beautiful little girl. And we were not fortunate enough to have biological children, but we've been able to, through resources provided, adopt. And both of our children are adopted. And they have been the best decision we've ever made in life. Anybody that's a parent knows the struggles of raising kids. And when you get older, you're raising kids, and you're raising an older parent. So we have both of my wife and I's fathers have passed, but our mothers are very much alive, and so we have good family ties on both sides, and so that's just pretty much us. We're very family oriented. And just I'm wanting to provide a structure for my kids to always have a home place like my parents provided for me, and my wife's parents provided for her, to always know that they have a place they can always call home and that will be theirs. And that's kind of as they are getting older, that's something my wife and I really in these last couple of years have really diligently been working towards, is to being able to provide that, always have a home base, no matter where they are in life, no matter what struggles they may have, they have a home base. And this property that we're buying is a lot of sentimental reasons behind that, and it being this perfect property for me because of the property history it has with my family.
Well, tell us about that. I mean, it sounds like and is this your first home, or have you purchased before?
This is mine and my wife's first home. We've always been renters. I've always liked the fact of, if something broke, I can call somebody and say, hey, the AC went out or the hot water heater went out, But there comes a time at my age in my life, I'm 48, my wife is 47, and having younger children like we do, most of my friends' kids are grown now, I tell people I did it backwards, but I got friends I went to high school with and all who have grandkids already, and I'm just like, no, I can't see that. But this property goes back to my family. My grandfather, my dad's father, was a farmer, and in 1930 or 31, he bought 163 acres. And the 2 acres that we are buying is the part of that property that he built his house on and raised his 8 children. My dad was born in this house, in the house on this property. The house is no longer there, but the property is still the property where my father was born in the house and raised in, and all his siblings. And so the house is long gone. After my grandparents passed, the brothers and sisters decided to sell the farm because none of them were farmers, and it was the late 70s, early 80s, and they all had their careers and their families. And so Daddy said, I want to keep 2 acres. I'll buy it or whatever. And he wanted the home acre. And he wanted the original home place. And so he kept those. And a few years later, when I was 3 or 4, my mother's parents moved on this property. And they put a little single wide trailer. The house was gone. They put a little single wide trailer. And this is where we spent weekends. This is where all the cousins come together, and on my mom's side, and for 15 years. And this property always held a special place in my heart. And sadly in 94, because we lived out of town and my grandparents had passed and everything, Daddy, just for maintaining the property and being an hour away and raising a young family himself, he didn't have time to upkeep the property. And so Daddy made the tough decision to sell the 2 acres. And I remember the day he sold it, I was 16 or 17. I think I was about to be 17. I said, Daddy, I'm going to buy that property back someday. I said, I don't want you to sell it. He said, son, I don't want to sell it. And he says, if you can, I hope you do. He says, but don't stress out about it if you can't. And I said, no, I'm going to have it one day. And so for the next 30 years, I have driven by this property every chance I've gotten to drive down that road. And I always said, one day. Well, a couple months back, my uncle texted me. Says, the property's for sale. That's all the text said. The property's for sale.
He knew it. He knew what property it was.
Yeah. And so I instantly go online, find the sale listing. Me and my wife talk about it that night, and we decided that we're not in a spot. This was on a Sunday night. We're not in a spot to do anything. And we just need to wait, because I had already been talking with Gabby, and Gabby said we need to, this is what things we're doing. We had already been working towards this. I had talked with Gabby previously about 6 or 8 months prior to, and she was like, we can do this, but we just got to get to this point. These things need to fall in place. And so we decided to put it off. I did not sleep that night at all, because I knew that was the wrong decision. And so going to bed, telling my wife, yes, this is something we're not going to do. I wake up. She's already gone to work. She leaves a little earlier than I do. And I get on the computer and I start right away. First person I call is Gabby. Can we do this? And she's like, let me look into it. And she starts talking to people and gets the ball rolling. And yep, we can do this with this needs to be done. When we start working on that, I called my wife and I said, hey, guess what? And she says, what? I said, change your plans. And she's like, okay. And I tell her, and she's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, this is, I feel like I'm being led to this, too many things had fallen into place for this not to be. And so I talked to my sister-in-law, who works for a closing attorney. And she says, mobile homes can be difficult. She says, I've never done a property with 2 mobile homes, which this property has. And that's another reason why this is so significant, because my mother and my sister, I want to be able to provide them a home. And so she's like, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, if you go through with this can be a nightmare.
So be prepared.
And Gabby will attest to this, and Miss Patty will attest to this. There are no truer words ever spoken.
You've been warned.
Yes, but we worked really, really hard, and you've been amazing at helping us with every single challenge that we came across. And there were a few challenges with the property and the titles and so forth and so on. But Brad, you're an excellent example of someone who has stayed the course, who did everything that we asked of you, who provided the documentation, all of the different things that we need in order to get underwriting approval. You were great at working with us. It was a great partnership and a great teamwork. And that's what makes dreams come true.
It
is when you're willing and invested, and we are certainly willing and invested to help our clients get to the finish line. So that's what we're here for. So we're super excited for you.
Well, I really do appreciate that. And anytime I've emailed or anytime I've called, and let me tell you, there's a lot of after hours I've called. I'm sure Gabby looked at her phone and saw my name and is like, what does he want now? Dreading to answer the call. And I say in hindsight, a great team with them, but I was fortunate enough also to have a great sales rep too, sales agent. My sales agent that I have has been above and beyond just as much as Gabby and Miss Patty and Miss Amanda and everybody there with Premier has been. Having the right sales agent behind you and who will go the extra mile as well. Miss Sherry, I could not thank any more than I can Gabby and Miss Patty and everybody along, because she's been in the trenches with me. And so having a good team behind you and knowing that everything just seems, the right people have fallen into place to make things happen and have your support. And I just can't thank the whole team enough to make this reality or this dream a reality. And and that's what it's taken. I had to do my part. Me and my wife had to do our part. Miss Gabby and Miss Patty had to do their part, and Miss Sherry's had to do her part. A lot of going back and forth with things, but it just goes to show when you got good people who care. And I honestly, and all serious regards, I feel like the people on my team are the most caring in the game and really want things to happen for us as the home buyer. And I can't be any more sincere as to say it that way. They hurt when you hurt. They get upset when you're upset. They rejoice when you rejoice.
Yes.
They, and it's been a very trying times at time, and they right there to console you. And when you think things are at a dead end, and then let's think outside the box. And let's shoot that Hail Mary and let's make things happen. And if it wasn't for Miss Gabby and the team behind her and that Atlanta conference y'all went to, we might be having a different podcast today.
Mandy was there, and she was part of the powwow and thinking outside the box. So you can thank her for that as well.
And that's one of the things we love about PMR is when we face a hurdle or a challenge in our office and we're not sure exactly how to get this done. We have a whole team of people behind us at corporate that can collaborate with us and help us think outside of the box and do what's necessary. We draw strength from our corporate team, our underwriters, Mandy, our owner, Corey Swain, and regional Corey Cantrell. All of the people and other loan officers and underwriters were involved too at figuring out the best path forward that made sense for your family and that worked within the guidelines that we are mandated to follow. So it's a wonderful collaboration. That's why I love PMR so much too.
Well, a couple things I want to bring up. One is, wow, what a story. Wow, what drive you and your wife have to have this goal, have amazing kids, and then be providing a home for your family, your mom. That hits home for me. I lost my dad too, and so I feel you on that. At PMR, we just want to be amazing humans that help do home loans. So I feel great. I feel great gratification towards the team there for help being that, right? Being good people first that see a need and want to help fill that in their communities. I feel like that is the best gift we can get. Is it's not necessarily about the check they get. It's about people like Brad and his family that we can help and really make a difference in long-term homeownership. And I really do believe that homeownership gives stability. I laugh when you said I didn't want to worry about the water cooler, but now that you're going to be a homeowner and you get to worry about the water cooler, I think that at the root of it, though, what you said is you needed a place for your family to feel secure and stable. And I do believe homeownership does that. And I'm so thrilled. So have you closed on your house yet? Are you getting ready to close, or?
That is what we hope to find out hopefully this week.
And you brought up having a good agent, a good closing attorney, a good mortgage team. I think that it is a three-legged stool, and it sounds like you've got the trifecta of greatness going on there.
My sister-in-law and her team with the attorney has been amazing to help direct which way we need to go on the title searches and the title issues that we maintain. She's worked well with Gabby and with Sherry. And just, I mean, it's just, I always call my sister-in-law, she's the bulldog of the family. She's the attorney. She's not an attorney, but she's the attorney of the family. And she, I could have went with other law firms, but I trust her to make sure she directs, the right way, and she will leave no stone unturned. And same with Miss Sherry. She's going to leave no stone unturned, and the same with Miss Gabby and Miss Patty, same thing. They're going to leave no stone unturned. They're going to get the results that they need. And, like you said, it's a three-legged stool, and I just cannot be any thankful. My wife and I, Amy, cannot be any more thankful for the resources and the team that we had and the push behind us we had in making this happen. But no, we have not closed yet. There was one last little hurdle that recently came up.
Yeah, we need a final inspection on the appraisal, and then we're good to go after
that. Sounds like the property is very complicated. It sounds like you have 2 manufactured homes on one property. You're going to get back this property that's 2 acres that you've dreamed about for 30 years. The 2 homes cause complications, right? If you're out there listening and you're wanting to buy a home, this is a very unique situation, right?
Yes. And don't turn away from mobile homes.
Yeah.
Do not. I'm not saying that to shy people away from home, because they have just as much value as a still big home on the right circumstance and to the right person.
Right. But it's unique that there's 2 on this property, because usually if it's 1, it's like, okay, but Patty, maybe you can speak to that. And then, it sounds like maybe that was the biggest hurdle. It sounds like Brad and Amy did their part in maybe either credit or income or debt to income ratio or whatever it was in this year process working with Gabby. Maybe you can talk about, just what was it that took a year and maybe you can talk about that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, one of the things was they were not sure of the process when they first got started. They weren't prepared for home ownership. They didn't understand all of the ins and outs. So education is key for potential homeowners to understand all of the ins and outs, getting insurance, how to handle credit, making sure you have enough money saved in the bank, making sure your credit score is high enough, your credit history is good, all of the different components that go into being able to successfully purchase a home. That was all brand new to them because they were not homeowners before. So it took some time to educate and learn and work on whatever the various factors were. And then it was a point of, okay, sometimes you need seasoning, sometimes you need some time that has elapsed, and then sometimes it takes months to find the right property. And in their case, they knew the property they wanted, but it wasn't for sale. And so it took a few months during that process as well, while they were learning and preparing, saving money and educating themselves as well. Then it took some time for the right property to come on the market. So you have to have patience.
Well, God's timing God's timing tends to be perfect, and Brad was like not listening, so God was like, I'm just going to talk to you all night while you sleep or don't sleep to tell you that it's time, Brad. It's go time, buddy. It's 30 years. It's go time.
Exactly.
He worked so hard for this. So it was time. Yes.
Exactly. And I want to add one point to what Miss Patty just said, if I may. She's so right. Taking your time and educating yourself, because me and my wife was happy not owning a home. We really was. And so we've had friends who bought multiple homes, and we always knew if we bought, it wasn't going to be a stepping stone to another home. If we ever bought, it was going to be forever home. So when we decided to go ahead and look into this process, I wanted to know as much about the process and what I needed to make it the perfect home for as much as you can make a perfect home for your family. And that's why I wanted to reach out and make contact first and see what we needed to do, see where we were at, see how things looked, and learn about stuff instead of just jumping feet first in, because I have done that in the past in my younger days, and it not always worked out well. Sometimes it did, and sometimes I jumped into a hog pen, up the slop, up to the, knee deep. But it's just one of those things that this involved more than just me. This is a multi-generational thing. This now affects 4 generations of my family, going back to my grandfather, and then my daddy and me, and now my children. And to know that my children will always have that availability and that home base that my parents provided me, and my grandparents provided my daddy and my mother. And because when my parents first got married, they moved a little single wide trailer out there on that land, and that was where they spent their first couple of years married. And then before my grandmother moved back, they moved back out there and lived with my dad's mom the last few years of her life out there on that land. So that land, now that my dad is gone, holds a special place to my mom. So, and then her parents lived on it. So this is multi-family, multi-generational thing. And I did not want to be the one to screw this up.
Me either. It was really a joint effort.
So, that's why, and to be honest, not only when I did my due diligence about what it was going to take for me, I did my due diligence on Premier. I looked online and I read reviews and reactions and things, and because this was so important, I wanted to make sure I had the right company behind me.
Yeah.
And I mean, because let's face it, you can open up Facebook and see mortgage lenders all over the place.
Right.
But there's more than just being a mortgage lender and then being a mortgage base, to where, if I wanted to buy additional property down the road, I know who I'm coming to.
Yeah.
And things like that. You have that history with them. And there may be time down the road where I do buy additional property into what I have.
Yeah.
You don't ever know, so, because there's a lot of there's still 161 acres out there available in my original family land.
Yeah.
So, you don't ever know what holds true. But, so I just, I'm all about, it has to feel right. And from the very first time I talked to Gabby, my wife, I had her on speakerphone, my wife was listening to her. And my wife is very standoffish. She doesn't meet new people well. But she got off the phone and she's like, I like her. And for my wife to say that the first time she's ever talked to somebody, even on the phone, she was like, she'll make sure that we're taken care of. And she just, has been that way the whole time. She's like, I'll talk to her about a situation. She says, well, what does Gabby say? You know, and my wife just doesn't put that trust in somebody easily. And that's how it honestly has been. And we could not, again, I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it, we couldn't ask for any better.
Oh, well, Gabby, what stood out? What stood out to you in your first meeting when you met Brad and Amy?
Well, when I first met Brad, I knew that he was coming to me as a brand new homeowner, and that is kind of like my specialty, my forte. And usually a lot of my clients, don't have perfect credit. So I know I'm in for a challenge and in for a fight. So I know I'm going to have to bulldog the file. Okay, and the squeaky wheel, I'm going to have to call them every week and say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Brad was always happy to hear from me. I was never annoying him. He was always like, yes, Miss Gabby, I'm so happy that you're calling me and checking on me. You're keeping me on track. And his wife was even like, yes, keep him on track, keep him going, keep him in the right way. And him and Amy have always been very, very appreciative of everything that I've done. They have just been very happy to work with. Their mood has always been great, even when things have not been so great. Mm-hmm. And they are always willing to try my crazy out of the box ideas, because I feel like sometimes we have to think those that way. And he's just, everything I've asked for, he's got me very quickly. And if he can't get it to me quickly, he's like, I'm trying to get it as fast as I can. So I thank you for that, Brad. And I've always told you I don't take no lightly, and I don't take no for an answer, and I don't. So
and you're welcome. Is very true.
We're getting it done.
I remember having a conversation with her after we had hit a brick wall on one of our last hurdles, and we just hit a brick wall with county zoning, and we had a meeting with the zoning inspector and all, and it just did not go the way we wanted to, and that was like the last I felt like that was the last end all be all, and I was just like, I guess this is just not going to happen. This is and I said, I'm gonna have to start looking at other recourses and probably just not worry about it. And the tone in Gabby's voice changed to almost like a motherly tone. And she's like, well, you can do that, but I'm not giving up on this. And I'm like, okay, well, hopefully you can find something. And it was 3 or 4 days later. That's when the Hail Mary, hey, I just come back from, her first thing she says, are you sitting down? And normally that question is not led up by a good answer. But I was like, yeah, I'm sitting down. And this was, what was it, Gabby? Like 4, 5, 6 o'clock on a Thursday. Y'all had just come out of the meeting. It was almost 6 o'clock.
Come out of the meeting, yeah.
Yeah, I had that meeting that Monday. Mm-hmm. And I had been kind of looking at some other options and everything. Mm-hmm. And then she calls me that Thursday after the last time I told her that I was probably pretty much done. And she's like, are you sitting down? And I was like, yeah. And she told me that, we have an option. And she's like, I told you don't give up. And I was like, you did. But I had almost gotten to that point. And if it were not for her, just keep digging. And that's what it takes. Because, there's only so much a person can take, just not going your way. And I asked for, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. And from the whole beginning, I have prayed for God to direct this. And there's been hurdle after hurdle. And I'm like, is this God really directing this? Or is he giving me these hurdles to tell me, okay, this is not the right move for you and your family? But it seemed every time we come into a hurdle, we eventually got over it. And so, I'm like, maybe he's just making sure this is what we really want to do. And how hard do we want it? And so, but those from Monday to that Thursday night when she called, I was near about depressed. Yes, there was a cost of money that I was going to be out of. Yes, but the most important thing was I've let so many people down in my family. And it was my wife and my kids, my mother, my sister, my niece, my brother, because he was so excited having the family back in our land. Cousins and uncles and aunts who were excited about being able to have family gatherings out there again. And it was just that's for those 4 days, that's all I thought about. I've let all these people down. Not me, but just got their hopes up that this was going to happen, and it's not. Maybe I should have just kept my mouth quiet the whole time. And that's not me, as you can tell. I can't keep my mouth.
But you didn't give up.
I got well, I won't say what my daddy used to say I had, but my mouth can't quit running, and that's the salesperson to me. That's my background is in sales, and so whether it be insurance or communications, I worked in the phone industry for years for national carriers and stuff like that, and so but just it's just so thankful that I had the right people. That God directed the right people and to be there for me to get me through these hard times, because that's basically what it has been. If I was doing this on my own and trying to figure, or I honestly feel like, yeah, there's other lenders out there. You can go to your local bank. I don't believe a local bank or a small town bank or a big bank, you walking in off the street, and after 2 or 3 of the hurdles that we've had, they probably would have been like, this is just not going to happen. I'm sorry, but this is not going to happen. But that was never Gabby or Miss Patty's or Miss Amanda's thought process. Their thought process that goes once we reach one of these hurdles is, what can we do to make this happen?
Yes.
And that's been that. But I mean, I believe that 100%.
Well, you came to us with a dream. You had something that you wanted. It's our job to figure out how you get from point A to the closing table. And yes, we had some challenges and some hurdles, but that's the beauty of the team here at PMR. Always staying aware. We have a great team that sends us updates when guidelines change, which was one of the things that happened on this one. We were talking about, we were so upset and frustrated because we couldn't quite get there for you. And then we were all collaborating on that Thursday evening after our business planning training, and it was like, hey, I've got the situation, does anybody have any ideas? And it's like, oh, this and that and the other, and an underwriting guideline bulletin came out, and from there we just figured it all out. And that's why you got that phone call. And we don't do no well in our office, but Premier doesn't do no well either. Amy Packer has a saying, every loan matters, and it's because every loan matters, because that represents a family that needs a home, and that's the most important thing, is making sure that that particular family gets a home and gets their dream and gets that safe place that they need. And that's why we're here. That's why we exist, is to help families have a safe space of their own. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate you choosing to work with us, most definitely. You're super important to us, and we're so thankful that you're part of us. And we're thankful for a team at corporate too that backs us up and makes sure that we can do what we set out to do for each and every customer.
That's right. And one thing I do want to say, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. And I know there's other people I have not mentioned on y'all's team that I don't even know that has never talked to me. Yes. That has been pulling all the effort. And I would personally want to thank them too. I mentioned the ones that I'm aware of. Yeah. But I know there's so many more back there that I don't know that has laid eyes on this situation and has offered help and offered things. And so, and I'm just tremendously thankful to them as well, because it literally does. And I've always heard this, and I've always understood it, but I never had to experience it. But it truly, sometimes it does take a village. And, yes. And, I've heard that saying all my life. I never experienced it because, we were such a tight-knit family that everything was all internal growing up and all. But I'm proud to say that I'm glad that it takes a village in certain situations, because, if it was just, and people that cared, that to me is, these people don't know me from Adam's house cat. And other than a few conversations we've had, but just the caring and the you hear it in their voice whenever there's struggles and they're trying, you hear the care in the voice. You hear the sadness whenever they've got bad news at that particular moment, or you hear the rejoice in their voice whenever they got good news for you. And you can't fake that. And that's just what me and my family are so appreciative for.
Well, I am so inspired by your story. If you're out there and you're listening to this podcast and you're like Brad and Amy and you thought renting was the way, and then all of a sudden the home that was meant for you pops up, we'd love to help you with your home loan. We'd love to help walk you through the process, or be an educator. Like Brad said, it's really important to know what you're getting into, because homeownership is a commitment. And here Brad and Amy are with their forever home, and multiple generations going to live there and really make a difference for this family. So thank you. In the spirit of the holidays, I wish you the very best holiday season yet. And thank you for being part of our Origination Boost podcast. Of course, Patty and Gabby, you know you have my heart out there in Georgia, and I love you ladies. And thanks for being good humans that happen to do home loans. And thank you all for being here today.
Thanks,
you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.